I'm going to go over the book of Revelation, chapter 1, just so I can give you a quick starter on how to read the book of Revelation. Now, the Revelation is not a book that is supposed to hide things from the educated reader. And when I mean educated, I mean biblically educated. Everything that is in the book of Revelation has some type of Old Testament backdrop. It has Old Testament motifs, it has Hebraisms, it has a number of different ideas that are already found in the Old Testament. I believe it's 600 or over 600 references in the book of Revelation are to Old Testament passages. So you should not read Revelation and then take it out of its historically biblical context. You cannot do that. Expect to interpret it properly. Well, Revelation 1, it says the revelation of Jesus Christ. This is a revealing. This is not a hiding of Jesus Christ. This is a revealing, which God gave to him to show his servants which things must shortly take place. Must shortly take place. And he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John. John, this is the writer of the book of Revelation, who bore witness to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, to all things that he saw. Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near, or for the time is at hand. This is the same Greek construction we find in John chapter 2:13. It's exactly the same writer. It says, now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. So when we hear that word near or at hand, it means the same thing. It doesn't mean completely afar off, as some suppose. So if you're letting John interpret Revelation from his other writings, then you're going to have the same interpretation as you would in the book of Revelation. Now here is the introduction. This is who the book was originally written to. John, to the 7 churches which are in Asia. Grace to you and peace from him who is and who was and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits who are before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler over the kings of the earth. This is a first century context, okay? Any scholar, I know the majority of people who misinterpret the book of Revelation don't read scholarship, they don't read commentaries, they don't do anything like that unless it already fits into the narrative, into their futurist eschatology, which they believe everything that the book of Revelation is referring to is in their future. And so they make the book of Revelation irrelevant, literally the opposite of what the book says, irrelevant to the first century audience. That's not how it's supposed to be. You got to keep it in historical context, just like you keep 1st and 2nd Timothy in its historical context by allowing Paul to speak directly to Timothy. Do you see that? Paul is speaking directly to Timothy in the book of 1st and 2nd Timothy. He's not speaking to you directly. So we have to take the principles of that and see how it applies to us, if it does, in fact, apply to us. So here we have Revelation speaking to the 7 churches which are in Asia in the 1st century. Okay? That certain things were going to happen soon. He's telling them. Now, if the things didn't happen like he said it would to them, then he would be considered a false prophet based off the Old Testament backdrop of Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy 18 gives you the standard by which we should judge prophets and false prophets. There's no middle ground. Either the Apostle John was a true prophet or a false prophet. But since we know everything he said did come to pass when it did, then we have to assume that Revelation is something that happened in the lifetime of the hearers of the prophecy. I, John, both your brother and companion, in the tribulation. Literally, John is saying, in the tribulation, and kingdom and patience of Jesus Christ. So John is already in the kingdom. And he's already in the tribulation. And having patience, the patience of Jesus Christ, was on the isle that is called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and heard behind me a loud voice as of a trumpet, saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. And what you see, write in the book and send it to the 7 churches, which are in Asia, to Ephesus, to Smyrna, to Pergamos, to Thyatira, to Sardis, to Philadelphia, and to Laodicea. Do not take these verses and apply them to anything until you first ground them in its historical context. Ground them in actual churches that existed in the first century, or you're already misreading the prophecies. You're already misreading the interpretation of the visions. First, allow it to be historical in that context, then see if it applies to us today. So that's the introduction, Revelation chapter 1, 1 through verse 11. All right, God bless.